Now then, welcome back to the latest You Are My Borough with myself, Tom Shaw, and Scott Wilson. And a fair bit has happened, not particularly positive since our last video, which was last Monday when Borough was sitting pretty in the top six on the back of a run of positive results. And we previewed the Leeds and the Millwall games Borough lost without scoring a goal. And now with 4 games to go, they're down in 8th and playing catch up again. And the Championship continues to twist the knife, Scott. We won't bother with the Leeds game because it was a week and more ago now, and I don't think anyone really wants to go over it, although there was positives to take from that. Were there positives to take from Millwall on Saturday?
No. It's very hard, I think, to take any real positives from that game. I just felt it was like Boro Bingo. It was all the things that we've seen from Boro this season kind of laid bare in 90 minutes. So I thought in the first half, Boro played reasonably well. They looked okay. I thought they were probably they were the better team, but without really looking like they were going to do anything about it. And that's been a problem we've seen this season. Periods when Boro have been on top, but haven't threatened the opposition goalkeeper enough, haven't really looked like they were going to score and make an impact. Then Millwall get on top in the second half. Once the game starts getting away from Boro, they are completely unable to turn the tide of that game and get themselves back into it. That's been a problem we've seen all this season. I think that's exacerbated by the fact that Alex Neil makes pretty decisive, game-changing interventions, both at half-time when he changes formation and goes with 2 up top. Then before the hour mark, when he makes a triple change, obviously Negley comes on who gets the goal. Michael Carrick doesn't do anything until Boro have gone behind. I think that's a problem that we've seen this season. Is he reactive rather than proactive? Well, the evidence on Saturday, I think, would suggest so. And then, you know, I think it's then just impossible as well to avoid the question, are Boro tough enough? Is there a soft centre to this Boro side that opposition teams have repeatedly exploited this season? Well, I think the answer is yes. I think it's hard at the minute to deny that. You know, did Millwall want it more? After the game, Alex Neil was saying, look, you know, I don't have the best team in the league, but what I do have is a team who'll fight, who'll show grit, who'll kick people, who'll run around. Well, you know, when has Michael Carrick been able to say that about his Boro team this season? And, you know, there's lots of issues for that. Is it recruitment? Is it the way that Carrick wants them to play? Is it the way that the players want to play? It's a combination of lots of things. But at the minute, it just feels like this Boro team's not tough enough to grit out the results that they're going to need between now and the end of the season. Now, all of this has to be couched in with 4 games left. They're still in it. They're 3 points off the playoff places. Coventry are playing West Brom. They've got to go to Coventry on the last day. Boro can still finish in the playoffs. But to do that, they're probably going to need to win 4 games in a row. They haven't done that yet this season at any point. Are they going to be able to do it now? I'm not so sure.
We'll get to that, and what might be needed, and the picture, and who's playing who this weekend, and all that. But I do think the fact that Boro are still in with a shout says more about the league than it does Boro, and the quality of the league and the quality of the teams from 5th down over, really. Because, as you say there about Millwall, bang average side, who's Alex Neil's got him playing to the strengths. I saw him at Sunderland a couple of weeks earlier, and really limited, but was probably a team overachieving, beating a team underachieving. But when you ran through the various strands there, and there's quite a lot to unpick from the things that you ran through that stood out to you in the game at Millwall, and a few of them lead to that inevitable conclusion that you'd said there about, is this team tough enough? Has this team got the grit to grind it out? The fact that when the game turned against them in the second half, could they turn it round? The fact that how many games in that sort of atmosphere at Millwall away, we talked about it beforehand, didn't we? Did it just have the inevitable feel of exactly how it turned out? And then I was looking this morning at how teams have fared this season in the Championship when they've conceded the first goal. Boro have conceded the first goal 17 times in the Championship this season out of 42 games. And they've only won 2 of those games and drawn 3 of them. So they've lost 12 of the 17 games in which they've conceded first. Now, compare that with Sunderland, who have only conceded first in 14 games, but have picked up 7 more points from those positions than Boro. Burnley have only conceded first in 8 games, but have picked up 12 points. Leeds have only conceded first in 13 games, but have picked up 15 points. That all taps in, doesn't it, to this feel of, is the character there? Is it steely enough? Can they respond to setbacks on the pitch?
Yeah, and it does feel like we've seen that right the way through the season, doesn't it? And there's lots of elements to that. Are the players mentally strong enough? Are there enough leaders out on the pitch who can get hold of players at various stages of games and say, right, for the next 5 minutes, we just keep things tight. We ride this out. We do that. Does Michael Carrick want his team to be like that? Or when it's going against them, does he want them to carry on just doing the same things, playing the same football, trying to do the same things that aren't necessarily working? Why don't we see more changes in terms of personnel, in terms of tactics in game when the game is clearly going away from Boro? I think it's a lot of contributory factors, but it's really hard to get away from the conclusion that when things start going against this Boro team, they find it incredibly difficult to turn it around and change the tide and get back on top of a game. And that is damaging. There's absolutely no way around that, because you are going to go behind in games of football. It will happen. You need to be able to deal with that. And Boro struggle with that.
And the substitutions thing, I mean, that's not a one-off, clearly, is it? I remember being at Ashton Gate on the Friday night when we went down to speak to them afterwards, and Mark Drury from BBC Tees had kind of said then the Bristol City manager made the changes that changed the game. And Carrick knew it was coming, because he said, I suppose you're getting to the point here that I didn't make my changes. And Mark said, no, I'll get to that next. I'll ask you direct about that next. That's not a one-off this season, is it, when Carrick's changes have been reactive or have felt reactive?
It's not. And, I'm sure Michael Carrick will have reasons for why he doesn't want to make changes that early, or... I mean, he's not a manager that likes to fundamentally change what his team's doing, is he? Alex Neil, on Saturday at half-time, went in and said to his players, right, this isn't working. Boro are pressing us. We're not getting the ball up the pitch. We're not holding on to it. I'm going to change formation. I'm going 4-4-2. I'm bringing on a second striker. I'm not saying to you, bang every ball up the pitch. But what I am saying is, if you can, get the ball up early. Let's see if we can make it stick in their final third, and let's play the game there and see what happens. And that, Michael Carrick disputes it, but that changed the game. That undoubtedly changed the game. And then once he saw that his side was starting to get on top, he didn't just sit back then, Neil. He brought on 3 more changes to get even more fresh blood in the top third of the pitch and really take the game to Boro. When have we seen Carrick make those kind of changes? When have we seen him change formation in a game? When have we seen him bring on 2-3 changes early in the second half to completely change the way that the game's been going in the first half? I'm not sure we've seen it at all. It's very, very rare if we have. And, Michael Carrick will say that's just not his style. That's not him. I have real belief in what my team are doing, the team I pick, and I want to give them every chance to get on top and play the way that I want them to play. Well, that's all fine, but isn't part of being a good, successful manager, head coach, whatever, the ability to change things when they're not working, and to look at the limitations within your squad and your team that you've got out there and say, okay, well, if that's not happening, we need to do this or we need to do this. I do think that is a fair criticism, that it's far too irregular. It's not often enough that we see Boro make game-changing moves during a game.
Carrick said at Rockcliffe last week that he didn't understand the fuss surrounding Kelechi and Acho, but then dropped him 2 days later. But I think when everyone saw the team, the makeup of the forward line, they'll have expected Bergzorg left, Azaz and Whittaker right. That wasn't the case. Did you understand why Carrick set him up like he did? Did it just not work at all? How do you think that front four will start against Plymouth? on
I
Friday.
understand why he left Iheanacho out. I think we all understand that. I mean, that felt like the right call after the Leeds game and everything.
I mean, does the fact he dropped him show that actually he does understand the fuss? Or
Yeah,
not the fuss, but he understands that Iheanacho hasn't been performing well.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think he understands that it just hasn't been working for Iheanacho. So the time was right to take him out of the team. And obviously he did take him out. But as you say then, okay, so Morgan Whittaker comes in. Nearly all of Morgan Whittaker's best games at Plymouth prior to coming to Boro were as a right winger. We thought he was signing as a right winger, effectively to plug the gap left by Isaiah Jones. He's played a bit on the right wing, but all of a sudden he seems to be in field as a 10. Finn Azaz, who's been getting a fair bit of stick from Boro fans, I have a lot of sympathy for Finn Azaz because, again, nearly all Finn Azaz's best games for Boro have been as a number 10. Every time he's been shuffled out to the left-hand side, he looks like a square peg in a round hole because he constantly wants to be coming inside to play as a number 10. So I don't think he works playing out on the left. Delano, go back to January, February, Boro weren't playing very well, but the one shining light was probably Delano Bergzorg bombing down the left-hand side. All of a sudden, he's out on the right-hand side. And again, he just doesn't look as comfortable there. So, listen, I'm not going to knock Carrick for trying it because for whatever reason, he must think that system works. Presumably, he's been working on it in training and liked what he's seen. What I do knock him for is the fact that when it hasn't looked very effective and it's looked clunky and it hasn't been working, he hasn't taken any steps to change that. He hasn't said, right, okay, it's half time to start the second half. Millwall are starting to get on top. Our attack's not really functioning. Let's move things around. Let's get Bergzorg the left. Let's pull Azaz back there. Let's give Whittaker 10 minutes as a right winger and see what happens. We didn't see any of that. And I just thought that felt strange because it did feel like all three were in their suboptimal positions.
I wonder whether there's an element of, I've said a couple of times in the last couple of weeks, I think Illing Jr. offensively has been Boro's best player, or certainly one of Boro's best players. And that left side has been slightly reminiscent of a couple of seasons ago when McGree took it inside, Giles bombing on. And I think Azaz doing that maybe allows Illing Jr. to get forward. So he's perhaps liked what he's seen on that left side.
Yeah.
And then Bergzorg has been effective on the flanks, but we haven't really seen much of him as a 10. So for that reason, and Whittaker can play a 10 for that reason, is that what his thinking was? But as you say, even if that's your thinking at the start, goes back to a game, you've got to react to what you're then seeing on the pitch in front of you while the game's ongoing.
I think you're probably right because we've ended up with Illing Jr. as Boro's nailed on left back now, haven't we? Partly because he's done so well, and partly, let's be honest, because Ryan Giles has been a bit of a disaster since he's come back. So, yeah, Illing Jr. is undoubtedly at his best when he's going on the outside, and so having a player ahead of him that tucks in, I do see that there is an element of sense there. I still don't think Azaz is the right player for it, though. Now, maybe now McGree is getting back to full fitness, that might be a better option. McGree has played that role for a large chunk of his Boro career. He would feel a more natural fit if Carrick wants someone to do that. And maybe we will see that on Friday. But then, for all that Illing Jr. has been really good, I did think his defensive limitations were on display for the first 20 minutes against Leeds when everything Leeds were doing was coming from Dan James down that right-hand side. Now, to be fair, Boro in that Leeds game did tighten up and they did get hold of things, and Illing Jr. sat back a bit more. But I thought that was the case there. But I think what we're saying is fundamentally there are issues all round this Boro side at the minute, and Michael Carrick has 4 games in which he's just got to try and either patch them up or solve them. And can that happen?
Well, he's not going to solve them, is he? Let's be honest. If he's had 42 games to solve, he's not. It's patching them up, isn't it? It's finding a way. It's getting the best now out of what you've got at your disposal. You mentioned McGree there. Well, we asked Carrick about McGree last week. So this was before the Millwall game when he came on for 20, 25 minutes or so at the end. And that was his first appearance since coming back from injury. He'd had 3. He was an unused substitute for 3 games before that. And we asked Carrick about that. And he said last week, Riley is just getting back to full fitness, really. He's been back training with us. We just wanted to make sure he was fully right. He kind of came back into the squad at a time when he hadn't really started fully training. He was just getting back in and around it with eyes towards a big end to the season. That's kind of where we're at now. It's good to have him back because he's an important part of us. Well, is he an important part still? I mean, so 2 seasons ago, McGree was absolutely influential, wasn't he? Last season, he started just 14 of 46 championship games. This season, he started just 11 of the championship games so far because of various injury setbacks. Like, at his best, McGree is undoubtedly and fully fit and an important and influential part. But Boro need to get him fit and keep him fit, don't they?
Yeah, I think he could be an important and influential part simply because he's one of the few options now that they've got to be able to put in to actually change things and maybe address some of the attacking deficiencies that were certainly on display at Millwall and that we've seen in a number of the more recent games. So, yeah, there's worries over McGree because, like you say, he's barely played for a season and a half, really. Is he anywhere near the player that Boro have seen when he's been at his best? I think it's still worth a go because I just think that if you carry on doing the same things, you're not going to win these next 4 games. So I would play him. I would play him on Friday as long as he's anywhere near. And from what Carrick is saying there, he is somewhere near in terms of being back to full match fitness. I think I would play him because I just think he'll give you something a little bit different. It'll enable you to shuffle around the rest of your front 4, which it feels like you need to do after that Millwall game. He is a bit more of a leader. He's a bit more of a fighter. He'll put his foot in a bit more, I think, than maybe some of the other players. So, yeah, I would play him.
What's your front 4 then for Plymouth on Friday?
I'd play McGree. I'd play Azaz as 10. And I'd play probably Whittaker right. And I'd play Conway. Now, I know that's leaving out Bergsorg, who at times has been Boro's best player this season. I think you've got to leave Iheanacho out again. So I would go McGree, Azaz, Whittaker, Conway.
Right then, the state of play at the top, as if you need reminding. I'm not going to run Boro's fixtures across the bottom because I have a feeling you'll know them by now. The Sunderland away and gone in 4th. Bristol City, 64 points, 5th. Coventry 6th, 63. West Brom and Boro 7th and 8th, 60. Millwall 9th, 60. Blackburn 10th, 56. Well, Blackburn are out of it, aren't they? They're not going to bridge that 7-point gap.
No.
We're getting to the stage where we probably have to talk goal difference. Well, Bristol City's is 9, Coventry's 5, West Brom's 12, Boro 10, Millwall 0, which could well have a part to play.
Yeah.
Because when you look at the Easter fixtures now that are running across the bottom, obviously Boro have got Plymouth and Sheffield Wednesday. So Bristol City, Sunderland home, Luton away. Coventry, West Brom home, Plymouth away. West Brom, Coventry away, Derby home. Millwall, Blackburn away, Norwich home. I think Millwall have got the best fixtures there over Easter.
What before we get into what's Boro's best result from that Coventry West Brom game, in your opinion?
I think it's got to be a draw, hasn't it?
A draw. It feels like a draw. Yeah, it feels like a draw is the best result because it keeps them both right in it, doesn't it?
Because I suppose if West Brom win, then providing Boro win, then they're going to be level on points at least with Coventry in the playoffs.
I think what you want from a Boro perspective is for them to be as close to Coventry as they can be because they've got Coventry on the last day.
And obviously,
if they're within 2 points of Coventry on the last day, then it's in their hands, isn't it? Because if they beat them, they're going to go above them. So I think what you don't want is Coventry getting away
and gone.
Yeah.
Unless you have Coventry in on the last day and with nothing to play for.
Well, and Boro battling with Bristol City potentially for that last one. Yeah, maybe.
Luton away. So Bristol City, that's interesting because Sunderland are 4th and they're going to finish 4th. And I watched Sunderland last weekend and Labrise afterwards was talking about this weird dynamic of having knowing where they're going to finish with 4 games to play. But they did get beat by Swansea and they will want a reaction from that. So Sunderland aren't going to go there and roll over. And Luton away on Monday is a tough game because Luton are still right in there with staying up. I think Bristol City have got a rough double over.
I think they'll beat Sunderland. I think they'll beat Sunderland. I know what you mean about Sunderland wanting a reaction, but at the minute, I don't feel like Sunderland can flick a switch necessarily. I think they're in that weird Netherland. And Luton away is tough. Luton away is tough because of all the teams at the bottom. They've suddenly found their fight, as of Plymouth, of course. But Luton away is tough. Yeah, definitely. Plymouth, obviously, are heavily involved in this because they play Borough, then they play Coventry. So that's going to be really interesting.
And the other thing there is, so if Borough beat Plymouth on Friday, then Plymouth could be about going to Coventry on Monday.
Listen, the top and bottom is, we're talking round here. We're having this conversation. It is utterly meaningless if Borough cannot win at least 3, probably 4 of their final games this season. Now, how many times do you think they've won 4 games in a row this season?
Well, we know the answer to that.
How many times have they won 3 games in a row?
Once.
Correct. October, November.
November, yeah.
So, that is the massive, gargantuan elephant in the room when we're having any of these conversations, isn't it? Can Borough actually string together this run of 3 or 4 wins that they're going to need? Well, the fixtures, there's a bit of everything, isn't there? Coventry is really tough. Plymouth is tough because they're fighting for their lives. Sheffield Norwich feels like a couple of games against teams with nothing to play for. So there's a bit of everything there. I don't think it's a really great run for Borough. I don't think it's a horrendous run. It's a typical championship run. Can they win 4 in a row?
Well, I'll answer the question. No, I don't think they can win 4 in a row. I think they can win 3. I think so. Take the games in isolation. I'm more confident of Borough winning at Sheffield on Monday than I am them beating Plymouth on Friday. I think Sheffield are done. I think the atmosphere will play into Borough's hands. I think Borough will beat Norwich at the Riverside. I watched Norwich last week. They're not a bad side, but that was at home, and they're a very different side away from home. I think Borough can win at Sheffield, and I think they can beat Norwich. Plymouth, on the back of that Sheffield United win, and we'll touch on Plymouth before we wrap up, but Plymouth are going to come to the Riverside absolutely scrapping for their lives and in need of a win, and I think they're going to make life difficult for Borough. Now, I think Borough might just squeeze over the line. So if they won those 3 games, they would be in with a shout of it going to Coventry.
Oh, definitely.
But for everything you said at the start of this video, I'm just not convinced Borough could handle a shootout, a final day shootout at Coventry, especially if it was against Coventry. Yeah. I'm not convinced they could handle that. I don't think Borough will win 4 games in a row. I think there's a chance to get 9 points, maybe 10, but 9. I don't think 9 gets you in.
Yeah. No, well, it probably doesn't if you're not beating Coventry, does it? I think Friday is a tough game. I think Friday is a tough game. I think off the back of Millwall and kind of what we saw down there, and I think the Riverside. Listen, it'll be bouncing at the start. And if Borough can make a good start and get on the front foot, if Borough can go a goal ahead, it'll be a cracking atmosphere. If Borough go a goal behind 20 minutes in and passes are starting to go astray and all of that, I think they'll be chuntering. I'm not saying that there'll be, a dissent as such, but there'll definitely be chuntering and a bit of negativity around the place. So I think it's absolutely crucial that Borough make the right start and get a bit of early momentum in that game. I don't know. I have a horrible feeling in the back of my head it might be a draw, which will be no good to Borough.
Do you think that'd be? Well, clearly
it wouldn't be game over, would it? We'd be coming to, because of the fact that at least one of Coventry or West Brom are going to drop points, whatever happens. It wouldn't be game over.
But if Bristol City won and Coventry won and Borough only drew, then
it'd be getting towards that, wouldn't it? Yeah. That would be my worry. That can they actually win the game? They can. For all that we say, Plymouth have a, great result from the weekend. They'll come with a bit of momentum. They're still one of the worst teams in the division. There's no doubt about that. But can Borough get over the line?
And Plymouth, they head for the Riverside on the back of a stirring win over Sheffield United, which Chris Wilder took in his stride.
Yeah, didn't he? Didn't he do it?
And what's happened to them, by the way? 3 defeats in a row.
Tell you what, we thought it was going to be Leeds that were falling apart, didn't we? But it's
is it done at the top now?
Been wild as Sheffield United. Feels like it. It feels like it because all of a sudden, both Leeds and Burnley have effectively one game they can afford to lose now, haven't they? So I don't think either of them lose 2 or 3.
No. Right then. So predictions for the weekend. I'll go with no real conviction. I think Boro will win at Sheff Wed. I do think Boro will win on Monday. I think they might just squeeze over the line on Friday, but I also wouldn't be at all surprised if it was a real edgy draw, like you say there. But I'll go 2-1 on Friday.
Well, I'll keep predicting Boro wins that don't happen. So let's hope. I'm going to predict a draw, and let's hope that doesn't happen. I'll go Plymouth to take the lead midway through the first half. Boro to just about rouse themselves at the start of the second half and equalise on about 65. Here's one for you. Equaliser, Ian Atcho off the bench.
After Carrick's treble change at half-time.
yeah. But then huff and puff in the last 10 minutes and can't get a winner. 1-1.
Well, we'll be back huffing and puffing at the start of next week with another video. We won't get one in between the two games, but do keep
too busy eating Easter eggs.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I've given up chocolate for Lent, so I'm absolutely on the countdown. Because chocolate, very Tony Mowbray-esque. Chocolate's my Achilles heel. I could eat chocolate any time of the day or night, so I'm tagging to get stuck in. We've got a Reese's Pieces. Then. Got a Reese's egg
before you head to Hillsborough.
Yeah. I'll go armed with a fair bit of chocolate to Hillsborough on Monday.
Good lad. Well, I'm at the Riverside on Friday, so I hope I'm wrong.
We're going to start. By the way, just keep an eye on the YouTube channel over the course of the remaining games, because we're going to start. Obviously, it'll just be one of us who's ever at the game, but when we get chance after games, we're going to start doing a quick blast, a quick Q&A straight after games when we can. So just keep an eye on that, and we'll obviously shout up on social if and when we're going to do it. Do get in touch on social if there's anything you want us to discuss moving forward. Subscribe to the channel on YouTube. Just tap the button below if you haven't already, and if you're listening on your podcast platforms, then obviously rate, review there as well. Thanks very much. Enjoy the game on Friday. Enjoy the trip to Hillsborough. It's another sellout, I think, on Monday.
Yeah, more than 4,000, I think.
Yeah, well, hopefully Boro have still got something to play for, and hopefully the fans who are making the trip have got something to cheer at the end of the day. And we'll be back next week for no doubt to no doubt assess a fair few more twists and turns in the Championship promotion and playoff race. Enjoy the rest of your week. Take care. Cheers.